So step right up to the accountability mirror. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're diving headfirst into some seriously uncomfortable truths from our source material. We're going to expose those hidden traps, the ones that keep incredibly smart people completely paralyzed. And we're going to map out the exact architecture you need to unlock absolute freedom. We're dismantling the excuses today and looking at exactly how to rebuild your reality. Let's get into it. Now, it's a question that haunts a lot of us, right? Why do highly talented people fail in total obscurity while the less talented absolutely conquer the marketplace? We really like to believe that talent, aesthetics, or just having the right vibes is enough. But the material we're looking at today makes a ruthless point. Ignoring the cold, hard mathematics of business, well, it just leaves you sitting around waiting to be discovered in a market that actually demands aggressive action. Remember, talent is just a tool. It's not the business itself.
Which brings us to Section 1, the status game trap. The source frames the status game as way more than just showing off on social media. It's actually a primitive, evolutionary programming. When people don't have real business knowledge, they just default to this zero-sum ladder. To move up, you literally have to push someone else down. It's a completely worthless competition that turns your peers into adversaries. It keeps everyone trapped in this manufactured myth of shortages, completely destroying your ability to partner up, create, and build actual wealth together. Escaping that trap? That requires a total mindset shift. Look, operating with a scarcity mentality means you're subconsciously viewing a peer's success as your own personal failure. But true wealth creation? That's a positive-sum game. Operating with an abundance mentality unlocks the ultimate multiplier of power. It allows you to share prestige and create massive leverage with others because you finally realize the market is infinitely generous if you know how to provide tangible value. All right, let's move into Section 2, the perfectionism illusion. We all do this, right? We wear perfectionism like it's some sort of badge of honor. But our source strips that illusion entirely, arguing that perfectionism is really just sophisticated self-sabotage. Hiding in your room, building these massive private architectures in your documents, brainstorming endlessly, it just protects the illusion of your infinite potential. Why? Because as long as it's hidden, it's safely untested in the real world. It's basically choosing the quiet pain of doing nothing over the risk of bleeding in public. So, an absolutely crucial point here is confronting our own nice guy or nice girl syndrome. Being nice just to avoid conflict? That isn't a virtue, it's cowardice and toxic empathy. Erasing yourself to accommodate others, making yourself small so you don't step on any toes, is literally the heaviest chain you can wear. It comes from this primal fear of taking up space and being judged by others. But listen, being harmless doesn't make you good, it just makes you powerless. Now, this quote is a total paradigm shift. To survive and thrive, the argument is that you have to operate with the art of formlessness. You appear like everyone else on the outside, interacting smoothly to exchange value, but you remain fiercely sovereign and detached on the inside. You don't need to deeply trust the whole world to do business with it. You just need to hold this mandate in your head. You do not adapt to the sickness or the smallness of the room. You make the room adapt to your frame. Okay, let's pivot to Section 3, the digital economy leverage. This is where the mechanics come in. If you hate the spotlight and absolutely despise the superficial public circus, I've got incredible news for you. Customers do not care about your identity. They really don't. They only care if your system solves their problem. You don't need to expose your vulnerabilities to the world. In today's digital economy, you can build, distribute, and sell solutions infinitely. And you can do it entirely anonymously. These are the realities of leverage today. Yes, attention is the ultimate currency, and obscurity is a major enemy. But that attention doesn't have to be on your actual face. Business is just an exchange of tangible value. Faceless digital products, like templates, software, systems, they scale infinitely because there's no physical inventory to manage. The modern digital economy is effectively the ultimate offshore jurisdiction for the sovereign solopreneur. It allows you to generate massive wealth from the shadows, completely removing a fragile ego from the equation. Let's look at how to pull this off in Section 4, Building a Sovereign Empire. The source outlines a really fascinating two-pronged strategy here. Step 1, reserve your personal brand solely for extreme high-ticket consulting. We're talking like $5,000 an hour. And this isn't just about the money. It acts as a radical truth filter. It instantly weeds out low-probability prospects and time wasters. Step Q, use that high-end work to fund and inform a massively scalable, completely faceless digital product empire. Your genius is monetized at the absolute top, while the base of your empire operates in the shadows without consuming your soul. Now, for that high-ticket consulting to actually work, The text suggests an anti-pitch strategy. Because let's be honest, needing validation is creepy. If you look desperate for the sale, you lose. Absolute detachment from the outcome is true power. You aren't begging for business. You are a cold, surgical diagnostician who is completely unafraid to dismantle your client's cognitive dissonance. People will pay fortunes for the radical truth simply because no one else is brave enough to tell it to them.
Which brings us to the final piece. Section 5, the ultimate weapon. Action.
The source uses a brilliant metaphor here based on the game Age of Mythology. When you hide in the fog of war, playing defensively because you're scared of the unknown, you might create a peaceful exterior, but your internal psychology decays. You basically rot from the inside out. But when you reveal the map and play with aggressive offense, sure, you might create external chaos. You'll disrupt the market, maybe offend some egos, but internally, you achieve absolute peace and production because you're finally aligning your actions with your true potential.
We so often get stuck waiting to feel ready. We want the fear to completely pass before we interact with the world. But the source argues that readiness isn't something that comes before you move. It's born entirely from the friction of your movement. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving while the fear is still present. Honestly, if the prospect isn't terrifying, the goals simply aren't big enough.
Think about it like this. Your intellect, your emotional literacy, your vast wisdom, it's all just fuel sitting in a tank. And what does fuel exist for? It exists to be burned. It's time to stop studying the map inside your private documents and finally ignite the engine. As the author points out, taking aggressive, massive action is literally the only way to prove you actually know anything at all. Ideas without execution are entirely worthless. And this reveals a pretty harsh truth about our comfort zones. The avoidance of suffering is itself a form of suffering. By trying so hard to avoid judgment and failure, you're inflicting the worst possible pain on yourself, the pain of unfulfilled potential. The text suggests that the agonizing pain you might be feeling right now is simply the necessary friction of your old identity dying so your true, sovereign potential can finally be born.
The strategy here is to deliberately place yourself on what strategists call the death ground. By cutting ties with your safety nets, you force yourself into aggressive, massive action. When your back is against the wall, the overthinking stops and the execution begins. It's all about letting go of finding the perfect path, choosing just one imperfect action today, and forcing the material world to bend to your new systems. Action is the only truth.
So this brings us to a final, really provocative thought from our explainer today. There is no pain-free path in life. We all have to choose our heart. Will you choose the pain of discipline, the pain of being judged, and the pain of expanding your empire? Or will you choose the agonizing, invisible pain of lifelong regret? It's time to take extreme accountability. Embrace the chaos of the marketplace, abandon the fear of exposure once and for all, and use the work to conquer your universe.